Let's bring in Christopher Mad Dog Russo, host of Mad Dog Unleashed on Sirius XM Channel 82. And he's also on First Take. You can usually see him on First Take every Wednesday with Stephen A. And tomorrow, the season finale of Vice TV's NFL Classics upon further review, 9 Eastern. It'll be Phil Simms with Kyle Brandt discussing the Super Bowl between the Giants and the Broncos. Chris, good to see you again. Finish this sentence. If the Yankees get swept, what?
Yeah, big embarrassment. Good job, Danny. Always a pleasure. Boone's going nowhere. I think you could have made a case if they had lost the Red Sox again, that maybe, despite his contract extension, you could have made that case. He's had a lot of injuries. He navigated the team pretty well. Good job there by beating Boston. Maybe they ran into a buzzsaw here. The Yankees will probably chalk it up to, they weren't whole. Next year, they got the young pitcher in Schittler. Throw in Cole back. You still have Rodon sitting there with Fried. They'd be a little better off. But again, this would be another year where the Yankees don't, go. Here's the bottom line. Since 2009, they've won one World Series game. That's it. I mean, you can debate this anytime you want. This is the Yankees, who have the biggest payroll in baseball, and right there with the Dodgers. And they've won one World Series game in 15 years. And chances are they won't win another one this year, because I do think you and I you love the baseball. I think the Blue Jays will probably figure out a way to win another game. And then the Yankees are going to lose the divisional series to Toronto, and that is going to sting. But I don't think there's going to be any drastic changes. I think they're relatively pleased with how the year went based on losing Cole. Boone, the fans don't like Boone, but the Yankee brass loves him. So from that, he's a good representative for them. He's a good media guy. He sends the message correctly. He listens to what they wanted to do. So he's not going anywhere either. I think they're chalking up. They ran into a buzzsaw in this Blue Jay team.
I mentioned this in the first hour of the show. There have been 189 pitches of at least 100 miles per hour in the postseason.
Wow. Yeah,
that's where we're headed. That is analytics, correct?
That is analytics, Danny, and there's too many relievers. It was so much fun to see Struble against Cleveland early in that series because he went 7-8 innings. Crochet against the Yankees when he pitched into the bottom of the eighth last week. The entertainment aspect of baseball, we've lost it. You and I grew up with Gibson, with Seaver, you maybe with Koufax, not me, but you maybe with Koufax, where you saw these big pitchers go out there and have to navigate a lineup the third time through. Jim Palmer's another one, Catfish Hunter. And that was always fun to see the big Hall of Famer, how he gets through, that big 3, 4, 5 in the lineup in the eighth and ninth inning. And you don't have that anymore. I mean, look at what has occurred here. I mean, the Yankees took out Heel, bottom of the third the other night with 2 outs. I mean, the kid had a no-hitter about the top of the sixth the other day in Toronto in the sixth inning, and they took him out of the game after 78 pitches. Boyd got taken out of the game in game 1 against San Diego after 58 pitches. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's unfortunate. They've ruined the aspect of it, the entertainment aspect of it. You and I and most fans can't pick these relievers out of a lineup, yet they dominate these games in the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. It is the way it is. It's, baseball needs to fix it. I don't know how they're going to do it. The analytics have become more important than the entertainment aspect of the sport, and it's a problem. That's why it was good to see the Yankee right-hander pitch in the 8th inning, 9th inning in Game 3. Went 8 innings in that game. It was something different. It was something fun. Again, the great pitcher, the starter, watching him perform late in these playoff games when you and I were growing up was theater. And we've lost that in the sport, and it's a major problem. And baseball knows it. I'm not sure what they can do about it, though. They know it. They know it's a problem.
But, the Dodgers' starting staff has been great. It's their bullpen that's terrible.
Terrible.
Their starting pitching has been unbelievable.
Right, and that's the weakness that the Dodgers have. I was a little surprised last night he didn't bring in the kid from Japan a little earlier in that 9th inning. You think he wanted to try Trinan to see if he can get 3 outs with a 3-run lead, so to get him back on track. But Snell comes out after 6 innings. But if the Dodgers have a bugaboo, that's it. If the Dodgers are going to lose, it's going to be that, 8th, 9th, 7th innings where they're going to lose a terrible game. And last night could have been that game. Last night, let's face it, Snell comes out, they got a 4-0 lead. And, if they don't make a great play in that bunt, who knows? They might lose a historically bad game, blowing a 4-1 lead in the ninth, and maybe they show some vulnerability, get a little nervous. Philadelphia feels good about themselves. They get the split at home, and, we have a situation where the Dodgers are going to be picked off. Now, they're up 2-0. They're going to figure out a way to win another game, and they're going to win that series. The Dodgers' issue, as you just said, is that short relief in that 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. And now we'll see, maybe this 21-year-old is going to be the answer. They spent the game $250 million, and he did a great job in game one, so maybe they have corrected that too. The Dodgers are, they're a great team. Dan, think about their team. Their top three in the lineup is tremendous. Then you got Teoscar Hernandez. Kiki Hernandez gets big hits. Will Smith, who's hurt. We all know how good he is. Let's throw in Max Muncy. And then they have, guys like Snell, Yamamoto, Ohtani. Oh, and by the way, here's Glasnow making $200 million. We'll pitch him in game 4. They are a great, great team. Let's be honest.
Talking to Christopher Mad Dog Russo, Mad Dog Unleashed on Sirius XM, Channel 82, and he is one of the co-host of ESPN's First Take. I thought about you on this topic, that we use championships as a metric for greatness for quarterbacks and NBA players, but we don't do that for baseball players. Why?
Yeah, because, Ted Williams never won a title, but he only gets up 4 times a game. And is it his fault that they never had any tremendous starting pitching? Cobb never won a title with Detroit, and he's one of the all-time greats. Never won a title, lost a couple of World Series. Yeah, it is a little tricky. Manning never won a championship with the Yankees. I think it's because the pitcher dominates so much. So if we look at baseball from an 8-man perspective, we don't look at it that way because there's not as much impact they can have on a game. With the baseball debate about the great Hall of Famer in a big spot, we do it to pitching. Because he's going to get the ball a couple times in a short series. And that is where I have always had some trouble with Kershaw, because Kershaw, he's won a title. And Kershaw's a tremendous regular season pitcher. But if you look at Kershaw in the postseason, he's been very mediocre. He's got a 4.45 ERA. He's given up 30 home runs in his postseason starts. And he has never been a great postseason performer. That is the one guy that you can label like the quarterback, like the center in basketball, that for whatever the reason, his regular season prowess doesn't translate into the postseason. And he did win a title in 2020 in the pandemic year when they beat Tampa, and he pitched pretty well in that run. He pitched good in Game 5. But we don't look at it the same way because the everyday player, Danny, as you know, doesn't have the same influence on a game as the starting pitcher has. So when we look at it in baseball, if you want to grade the starting, Maddox was never great in the postseason. He 3.74 lifetime ERA. Never great in the postseason. And that's why a guy like Smoltz, and that's why a guy like, to a certain degree, Schilling, that's why, you'd like to have them in a big game because you're confidence in them in a big spot. Their regular season isn't as good, but in a big game, you can rely on them. So I think it's more the pitcher that you discuss more than the everyday player.
I got into it with Peter King. We kind of went back and forth on the Hall of Fame. And we were talking about, that is Russell Wilson playing himself out of the Hall of Fame? And I said, Matthew Stafford has 1 Super Bowl win, and I think he was a Pro Bowler one time. Russ got to 2 Super Bowls, and he was a Pro Bowler 10 times. So his regular season stats are better than Eli Manning's. But so it feels, Manning's going in, people don't debate that, but Russ is playing his way out of the Hall of Fame. Do you agree?
Yeah, that's going to be a very close vote. I think that pass hurts him too. The interception against the Patriots, with Malcolm Butler, one of the worst. It hurts Pete Carroll. It's one of the worst plays of all time, and he throws a pick, which would have won a Super Bowl. I think that is a little bit of a factor. He's been on a million teams now. Denver didn't work well. The Giants hasn't worked well. Pittsburgh didn't work well. Ended poorly in Seattle. I think that's a problem too. I think your point about Stafford is fair. He's very underrated historically. I mean, he was on a bad Detroit team. I understand, Goff played well for the Lions, but he was on a bad Lions team. He's done a great job for the Rams. He plays well in big games. Last year they had the Eagles beat. He played great, played well in the Super Bowl, played well 2 years ago in Detroit in a playoff game. Stafford's very underrated historically, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer. And Manning, Danny, is about 5 games. Let's be honest. Manning is about 2 games in Green Bay. It's about a game in San Francisco, and it's 2 games against Brady. That is Manning's career. Now, 5 heroic games. Beat Brady, especially the second one. Got beat up against the Niners, was great. Green Bay in -2-degree weather. He outplayed Favre. He won 2 titles. And he did it in New York, which, is a big factor too. Very few quarterbacks outside of Plunkett, he's not going to make the Hall of Fame. But if you win 2 Super Bowls, chances are you're going to make it. And he did it in New York, and he beat Brady twice. But his career, if you look at Manning and you be fair about it, his career comes down to 5 games. Now, they're postseason games. They come down to 5 games. Wilson's a better regular season quarterback than Manning, but not the postseason success. Stafford is a better quarterback than Manning, but not the postseason success too. And you and I probably, if my life came down to it, I would definitely take Stafford over Manning. Would you take Wilson over Manning? Game the win for your life. Who would you take, Wilson or Manning? I'd probably take Manning. I probably would.
Well, let me throw this out.
I wouldn't take him over Stafford.
If David Tyree doesn't make that catch, Chris,
they don't win the game.
Yeah, so he doesn't go to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I agree with you. Excellent point.
And the first win in the Super Bowl was the defensive front. They crushed.
That was it. Yeah, and he won the MVP in that game, Manning, and he should.
Yeah, but he shouldn't have been. That should have been the defensive line.
Absolutely. Right. Very much like Brady's first year against St. Louis.
Yes.
He shouldn't have won the MVP either. Vinatieri could have won it. Their defense did a great job on Warner. But the quarterback gets the break. But you are 100% right. You can make a very strong case that David Tyree is the reason Eli is going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Because one Super Bowl would not do it. It would have taken his body of work needs a second title. And he got it. That turned out to be his first title, but he got it. Now, he did a great job on the play. He dodged the rush. He found the open man. He did score 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter with his offense. They were, what was the score? I think it was 7-3 maybe, whatever the score was. I mean, he did have 2 drives in the fourth quarter. Kevin Boss caught the tight end, caught a pass. But you're right, 100%. Now, but that goes back to the original question. You had a game, Dan Patrick had a game for his life. Would you take Manning or would you take Russell Wilson?
If I get Seattle Russ, I would take him.
Because of his running and things like that?
Yes. He was the best player on the field in that game, that Super Bowl that he lost. New England had no answer for him. He was unbelievable in that game. And it's, do you agree that Pete Carroll and Darrell Bevell wanted him to be the MVP and not Marshawn Lynch? You call the pass play. It's like we blame Russell instead of crediting Malcolm Butler with an unbelievable play. And Russ, why you would call that instead of a run-pass option? I don't know. I don't understand it. But, if you...
Well, Pete Carroll, I agree with you on that point. Pete Carroll is the number 1 GOAT of that game. It's not Wilson. I mean, they called the wrong play, and they got Marshawn Lynch sitting there. So you're 100% right. Wilson is not, but he's number 2. Or Bevel's 2. Take your pick. The coaches are 1, and then the quarterback's 2. But I think that your other point is a good point. I think look at Mattingly, but he had a bad back. But you get the idea. Sometimes how you end your career, if you're a borderline Hall of Famer, is more important than what you did in your career. And Wilson is going to end his career, in a way that is not impressive. And that is going to be your lasting memory of him against, the Steelers and the Giants and Denver and Sean Payton got him out of there, and he didn't finish well in Seattle. And I think because of that, we seem to forget for a 8 or a 9 year period, he was a great quarterback. And you are right, he was great. But the last 3 or 4 or 5, he's been very average. Manning ended his career with the same team. And the lasting impression of Manning in a lot of ways, and Troy Aikman even brought it up last night, was the Mario Manningham pass, which beat Brady. He mentioned it in his game last night. So as a result of that, I think that, I think Manning, you don't have a bad taste in your mouth. Now, do you agree with me? Go back to pitching for a second. Now, I know everybody loves Kershaw, but do you agree with me that Kershaw's postseason almost gets forgotten because he's been so good in the regular season, and the average baseball fan doesn't realize that he's been a bad postseason pitcher? You think I'm being too harsh there, or do you think there's a good point to be made?
I heard you say this on your show, and it felt like you were going out of your way to
You did. You felt that. Okay.
Yeah. Because, Maddox and Glavine weren't good postseason pitchers.
I agree.
And we don't mention that very often about those two guys. And Maddox won 354 games. I mean, Kershaw, yes, that is bad numbers. Bad numbers. But when you win that title, I mean, Maddox, they won one World Series. So
that's it.
I mean, Kershaw, I don't understand this. There's certain guys that were great in the postseason, and they were good in, Jack Morris or Smoltz or Schilling. They just love the moment. And I just have great appreciation for them. But, yeah, it did feel like you were
Well, I got to be careful with that. I'm
out.
glad you said that. When you tell me that, I'll be careful. And I'll be fair about Kershaw. And I know you got to run, but I'll be fair on Kershaw. You know what happened in Game 5 in 2017 against Houston? I mean, supposedly, that's when the Astros were cheating, folks, with the cans. And supposedly, they Tom Verducci told me this, and he would know. Supposedly, they laid off 38 sliders in the game. And he got bombed in that game. They lost 13-12. They laid off 38 sliders. Now, did they lay off the 38 sliders? Did they know when they were coming? If that's the case, maybe give Kershaw a big break. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's
Chris, I ran into somebody who was in the Astros organization this summer, and he said that Kershaw was tipping his pitches. So
that's what he said. That was his argument. Okay.
Yes, he said we knew. Because I talked about the cheating. He goes, no, Kershaw was tipping his pitches. I said, but you guys still cheated. He said, yes.
Well, then you got to trust. So then the question becomes, do you trust the guy who told you that? Or is he trying to protect his team from not taking something away from that great comeback? It's a tricky one.
It is. Great to see you. Thanks again for
joining us.
Always
a pleasure, Dan.
Enjoy the baseball. Yes. That's Christopher Mad Dog Russo. You'll see him on First Take tomorrow. Mad Dog Unleashed. It's Sirius XM 82. Also part of the NFL Classics upon further review on Vice TV at 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow with Phil Simms and Kyle Brandt. Take a break. Last call for phone calls. What we learned, what's in store tomorrow after this.